Good evening. Good evening. How are y'all this evening? All right, man. This is beautiful, man. I tell you, I was barely able to make it on stage, man, because it's so powerful in here this evening. You guys are great. Come on, give it up for yourselves. Give it up for yourselves. Give yourself a big hand. Better hand that. Come on. Yeah. This is what it's all about. I'm gonna challenge you right now. Whose house? Oh, you're not ready. Whose house? Whose house? All right, there we go. Once again, give yourselves a big applause. The first thing that you need to know about success is that there's no secret to success. You know, I get so sick and tired of hearing Joe Blow's secret to success. You ever hear that? You ever see that? Books and things, such and such secret to success. Well, I'm here to bust a few bubbles and step on a few toes. There is no secret to success. Success is all for the getting. It's all about becoming empowered, educated, knowledgeable, and making the proper decisions to become a successful you. The next thing that you need to know about success is success does not guarantee happiness. Success does not guarantee happiness. How many know that there's 1 trillion people out here that are very successful, but that are the most miserable people on this earth? So success does not guarantee happiness. And the next thing that you need to know about this 7-letter word called success is that God has not promised any of you under the sound of my voice that you will be successful. So with that said, as I said, many will never find their happiness. They go throughout life saying, okay, once I hit the lottery, or once I get married, or once I get pregnant. I hope that's not the case of any of you men here tonight. But you get my drift. You know, once this takes place, or once that takes place, then I would choose or become that successful or that happy person in life. But see, when you do that, you actually place your joy and your happiness on a wave of the sea that tossed to and fro. We understand where we've been, right? All of us understand where we've been in life. We understand somewhat of where we are right now. But the question that I have to you this evening is, where are you going? Where are you going? Let me understand. Let me explain something to you. Listen to me. Listen to me real good. See, the difference in therapy and the difference in what I call life coaching, which I consider myself as a life coach, the difference in therapy and life coaching is that therapy helps you to overcome the things that you've been through in the past, and life coaching helps you to not only understand where you are, but it helps you to get where you're going. Do not misunderstand me. Therapy, I thank God for therapy. Therapy is necessary. You're looking at a man right now who's going through therapy. You're looking at a man right now who's going through counseling due to some traumatic things that I experienced while serving overseas in the Army. So therapy is necessary. But see, what happens is many times, men, is that we allow what we experienced in the past, sometimes we choose not to let it go. So therefore, we allow what we experienced in the past to not only be the past, but now guess what? It becomes your present. And now that it becomes your present, it then becomes your future. What happens then? We have a revolving cycle. Make sense? We have a revolving cycle. So in that case, eventually we got to break the cycle. That's also called, you may have heard, it's called the law of attraction. And that's a whole nother conversation, but in that case, the law of attraction is actually being used against you. I mean, I had an old friend, and some of you might know someone in this case, had an old friend where they were in a abusive relationship years ago. And every time I would talk to this young lady, or almost every time, the conversation of what had happened to her in the past would actually surface. And so what would happen as a result of that, although that happened to her approximately 15, 20 years ago, she allowed that same thing to continue to surface and be her today conversation. And guess what? Now today, she's in abusive relationships. So what happens is you continue to invite the same old thing in your life when you hold on to pass things. So at some point, as I said, we have to get to a point where we have to release those things that we've been through. Make sense? Okay, let's move on a little bit. How many have a dream? Let's go on a journey. How many have a dream? Okay, good. Let's take that a little further. How many are chasing a dream? Anybody chasing a dream? Okay, wonderful. Now you say, you're standing up there telling me to become successful or to find my success or to become a happy person. But the question is that you might have for me is, how do I find my happiness? How do I become this happy individual or the successful individual that you're talking about? I'm going to tell you this evening, from this day forth, in order to become a truly successful and happy person, the first thing that you need to do is to stop chasing your dreams and begin chasing your purpose. And I say that truly because, listen to me, dreams come and go. Dreams change. And sometimes, gentlemen, dreams are even unrealistic. But when we talk about purpose, God has created each and every one of you under the sound of my voice with a purpose. In fact, He created you out of purpose. So therefore, why wouldn't we have a purpose? Each and every one of us are predestined to be or to do a certain thing while we're on this earth. No matter if you make it or no matter if you miss it, your purpose will remain the same, but dreams come and go. And we make a mistake throughout life, as we've all been told since we were kids. You know, have a dream. Don't misunderstand me. Have dreams. But chase your dreams. Chase your dreams. But guess what happens? What if that dream is not your purpose? What do you end up? What if that dream is not your purpose? You're chasing something you shouldn't be. Thank you. So, but if you tap into your purpose, I stand here telling you, I guarantee you, that if you tap into your purpose and discover what your purpose is and what God intended for you to be or to do while you're here on this earth, I guarantee you, you'll find yourself that much closer to your dreams. And not only that you will find yourself that much closer to your dreams, you'll find yourself actually being closer to being that happy and successful person that we all set out to be. The next thing that you must do is to ask yourself these 5 but yet simple, powerful questions. These 5 but yet simple, powerful questions. In other words, we can actually say these are the 5 questions that actually would prime your life to put you in position to actually not only do what you want to do, not only do what you have to do, but to do what you want to do. Does that make sense? We want to get in the position, in a place in our lives where we're doing and living not what we have to do, but more so of what we want to do. How many know there's a million people out there daily that go to work and do things every day that they don't want to do? They're forced to go do things because they have to do. And don't misunderstand me, that there are times that we have to do what we have to do. You're looking at a man who's worked 3 jobs at one time. I did what I have to do. But how much more happier or even successful that I would be if I actually went to work every day doing what I wanted to do, more so than what I have to do. Man, that's a big difference. Me standing here speaking before you this evening, I'm doing what I want to do, because guess what? I'm serving my purpose. I can stand here and do this for free all night, because guess what? It's my passion. I love it. I'm serving my purpose. So let's move into these 5 questions. The 5 questions that you must begin to ask yourself in order to be that successful and happy person. The first question that you must ask yourself is, what am I passionate about? What am I passionate about? And you might have that in your notes, so you can add to those notes. What am I passionate about? See, the thing that you need to understand about that is the sooner we find our purpose, gentlemen, and our passion, the less time we waste in life. Amen. Yes. What am I passionate about? You got to be passionate about something. You got to, gentlemen. Passion drives you. Passion gives you a sense of being. Passion gives you something to live for. We got to find that passion. You got to be passionate about something. So ask yourself, what am I passionate about? The next thing that you need to ask yourself is, what am I gifted at, or what am I good at doing? God has granted and gifted each and every one of us gifts and talents. But it's up to each and every one of us to tap into that thing and to find out what it is. What am I gifted at? What am I what am I gifted at, or what am I good at doing? And the third question that you need to ask yourself is, what truth do I bring to this earth? What truth do you bring to this earth, gentlemen? Find that answer. What is it? What is it? We all must bring some type of truth to this earth. The next thing that you need to ask yourself is, what moves me and gives me a sense of urgency? What is that thing that when you think about it, it makes your heart skip a beat? What is that thing when you think about it that it ignites you, it excites you? What is that thing? What is it? Ask yourself that. And the last question, number 5, that you need to ask yourself is, what floats my boat? I know that sounds funny, but you need to ask yourself that, what floats my boat? And that gives you that natural high. What is that thing, gentlemen? What floats your boat, man? So I guarantee you, if you take the time in your own privacy and you sit down and ask yourself those 5 simple but yet powerful questions, I guarantee you'll find yourself that much closer to discovering your purpose. The next thing that you need to do is to get to know self. We have to get to know self. I don't know, many times as children, we don't have a self-identity about ourselves, but I have experienced, even as an adult, that sometimes we still don't have a self-identity about ourselves. We have to get to know self. We have to understand and get to know who we are. And we have to move from being everything that everybody else wants us to be. And you know what that's called? That's called foreclosed identity. Foreclosed identity is basically lining yourself up or measuring yourself up to what mom wants you to be, to what dad wants you to be, to what uncle wants you to be, or to whoever wants you to be, whatever. Being everything and doing everything that everybody else wants you to be. Foreclosed identity, so we don't have a self-identity. And as a result, guess what? Many times in my experience, as a young man growing up in Miami, by me not having a self-identity, it allowed me to follow trends that were not healthy for me. It allowed me to engage into street violence. And some of you gentlemen may have the same issues or addictions or whatever it might be that you have experienced. But I guarantee you, once we understand who we are and gravitate to your own identity, many of those things, peer pressures and things of that nature, we can actually overcome and avoid. So get to know self. Next thing that we need to know is, I love this, is to know how to lose. How many ever heard of that term, know how to lose? You need to know how to lose. And I know that's a very rare term when we're talking about becoming better. But I guarantee you, every great athlete and every great champion is a great champion first and foremost because they knew how to lose. Basically, knowing how to lose is basically how do you respond? When things are not going your way, when things are not good, how do you respond? Amen. Right? We got to know how to lose. We got to find a way to bounce back, and it also involves resilience. And resilience is basically having the flexibility and the ability to be able to bounce back from life's upsets, disappointments, and in some cases, even lost. Resilience. You're looking at a man who once contemplated suicide with a semi-automatic Mac 11 pistol, fully loaded, pointed to my head. You're looking at a man that felt like life had my back against the wall. Life has a way sometimes of knocking us down, am I right? Life has a way sometimes of defeating us, am I right? I was in that very moment, and some of you gentlemen might can relate to that. And I took that Mac 11 pistol and pointed to my head. And it was at that very moment that I felt like giving up, man. I felt like giving up. I felt I had no reason to live. But I cried out to God because I didn't want to do it. I cried out to God that I didn't want to do it. And just in the nick of time, man, and God allowed me, man. He allowed me to think about my family. He allowed me to think about my children. Just in the nick of time. He allowed me to think about you. It was for the mercy and grace of God that I'm able to stand here before you this evening. That He was able to keep me. And now I'm able to stand here and to be with you this evening. So we praise God for that. In other words, that's what I'm talking about, resilience. In the moment where life has you knocked down, life has your back against the wall, we got to know how to lose, gentlemen. We got to be able to tap into resilience. We got to find a way to fight back. Resilience. Know how to lose. The next thing, gentlemen, is before I go any further. How many like the game of football? I love the game of football. Life is the same way, gentlemen. Sometimes it's okay to get knocked 3 steps back. Sometimes it's okay to get knocked 2 steps to the side. Just so you can gain the momentum to run forward and to kick the game-winning field goal at this game of what we call life. The thing that we need to do also is to develop a champion mindset. You have to develop a new mindset. I know although many of you are here at Team Challenge this evening, you still might be in that rural place in your mind. You still might have the same walk, the same talk, and even the same thoughts. And what I mean by being in that rural place in your mind, and I don't mean to offend anyone with this, many times people that are from rural counties and rural cities, and I say this because I have family, siblings that are from a very rural city. How many ever heard of Newton, Georgia? They're from Newton, Georgia. But my point is, they always seem to have a closed mindset. And I try to encourage them to tell them that you don't have to become a product of your own environment. You don't have to allow yourself to continue to think in this small circle here. Elevate your thoughts, elevate your mind. So they're in that rural place, that rural state in their mind. And so what I'm saying, many of us may be in that rural state in our minds. Although we're here at Team Challenge, although we're under great leadership, although we're in a positive place, but we've got to move beyond that rural state of your mind. You've got to begin to gain a new mindset in what I call a champion mindset. Look at your neighbor and tell them to develop a champion mindset. Tell the other neighbor to develop a champion mindset. You have to develop a champion mindset. And when you have a champion mindset, we don't think outside of the box, because there is no box. We think without limitation. We use critical thinking. Develop a champion mindset. What is your why? In other words, what is your reasoning for doing what you do? Why are you here at the team challenge? Why are you here this evening? What's your why, gentlemen? You have to ask yourself, what's your why? I had the opportunity to speak with the Pine Forest football team, varsity football team, not long ago, and I asked them that same question. What's your why? And many of them, of course, came with the response of, well, I play football just because. Or I play football because, Dad wanted me to, or just to do it. But in that case, gentlemen, if your why is just because, if you don't know what your reasoning for doing what you do is, then I'm here to tell you that your why is not big enough. What's your why, gentlemen? Life-changing experience. Life-changing experience. Thank you. When I'm asked what's my why, my answer is that I have eternity in mind. When I'm asked what's my why, I do it to change lives. I do it, what I do, to make others better people, to help people become better people. In other words, your why, or your purpose, or your reasoning for doing what you do must be greater than self. What's your why? Think about that. What's your why, gentlemen?
Find a relationship.
I'm sorry?
Find my relationship.
To find a relationship. Awesome. That's a big why. That's a big why. He said this why is to find his relationship with God. What's your why? We have to discover, we have to know our why. Because when we don't know our why, guess what? You ever seen a computer that has a bad internal drive? Know what happens when you boot that computer up? It buffers. It buffers. When you don't know your reasoning for doing what you do, and when you don't know your reasoning for being, and when you don't know your why, guess what? Every day your life is buffering. And it's buffering. And it's buffering. And nothing ever happens. You're in a cycle. You have to know what your why is, gentlemen. And I'm here to tell you, I've been there. When your life is in a buffering state, it's a very frustrating place to be. So we must know our why. What's your why? 3 vital things, let me add to that. 3 vital things that you need to know. What happens if you don't know what your why is? And let me back up from that. 3 vital things, let me give you 3 vital things that your why does for you. 3 vital things that your why does for you. First of all, it gives you a sense of purpose. Knowing your why gives you a sense of purpose. And we talked about that internal drive. It gives you that internal drive. We must know your why. The next thing that it does for you, knowing your why, gentlemen, keeps you focused. Because as you go throughout life every day, no matter what comes or what goes or what giant stands up against you, if you know your why, you still can remain focused. The third thing is, knowing your why helps you know your motive and your action. It helps you know your motive and your action. So with that said, if you don't know your why, what happens when you don't know your why? We talked about you can't break that cycle. There's a cycle. We talked about the computer, buffering. That's what happens when you don't know your why. So begin to know your why, gentlemen. It's vital. The next thing is to avoid negative people. Listen to me. The only thing that negative people and positive people have in common is that they're both are contagious. You ever thought about that? Listen to me. Frederick Douglass said it best. He said, I prayed for 20 years but received no answer. But until I prayed with my legs, he prayed for 20 years, received no answer, but until he prayed with his legs. In other words, until he got up and did something, he was not able to escape from slavery. So in other words, he took a risk. Listen to me, gentlemen. I'm standing here. I took a risk to stand here before you this evening. Many years ago, I felt I couldn't do this. Why? Because I stuttered over my words. Why? Because my dialogue wasn't good enough. Why? I took a risk, gentlemen, so therefore now I'm able to do what I'm doing with boldness and confidence. Many of you might be the next big thing in your community. You might be one risk away from being the next big thing in the world. You just might be, but see, some of you want to play it safe. Some of you are afraid to take risks. But see, we have to move out of the safe zone, gentlemen, in order to take risks, in order to become better, in order to do greater things, in order to accomplish things, in order to become that happy person, in order to become successful in the things that we choose to do and be in life. We have to take risk. Someone took a risk to establish Team Challenge. He took a risk to establish Team Challenge many years ago. What would have happened if he would have stood and took the challenge? We wouldn't be here this evening. Take risks, gentlemen. It's okay. We all took risks at once upon a time. I took risks and engaged in violence and in gun violence. Some of you may have took risks in addictions or drugs or alcohol, whatever it is. But why not now take more smarter, intelligent, and positive risks that will get us into the place where God will have us to be? So don't be afraid to take risks. Listen, gentlemen. We all know that yesterday is gone. We all know that tomorrow is not promised. And the only thing that we have now is this very moment, which is the only thing that's promised to you right now. And I say that to say that I challenge each and every one of you. I challenge you, gentlemen, to choose to discover your purpose. I challenge you, gentlemen, to not be afraid to take risks. I challenge you, gentlemen, to actually stand up, take the risk. I challenge you to choose to be successful. It's possible. I challenge you, despite of what's on the external, to find your joy on the internal, to find your happiness on the internal, despite of what goes on, despite of what you have and don't have. I challenge you, gentlemen. I challenge you to know how to lose. I challenge you to tap into resilience when things are not going your way, or when your back is against the wall, or when you feel like you can't go on. I challenge you to tap into resilience, to know how to lose. I challenge you, gentlemen, to develop a champion mindset. And ultimately, beyond any and everything that I've said this evening, I want to challenge you to turn to a power that's greater than self. And that power is, of course, Almighty God. Turn to a power that's greater than self. That's the only way, gentlemen, that we will reach that true joy, that true success. That's the only way. Turn to a power that's greater than self. Don't be afraid, gentlemen. I thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to stand before you this evening. And I'm going to leave you with this. Show me a man who omits his addictions, and I'll show you a man of death. But show me a man who admits his addictions, and I'll show you a man of life.